Off the Record is a show from 88.1 WKNC in which DJs talk with artists about everything from their music to upcoming tours to former bandmates' birthdays. Make sure to follow WKNC on SoundCloud and Tumblr so you never miss a beat. Enjoy.
It's the North Cat, baby, I'm a boss. Carolina barbecue sauce with the slaw.
WKNC 88.1, this is DJ Rhythm. You are tuned in, and we are sitting here with G Yamazawa. How are you doing today, sir?
Yes, sir, I'm great, man.
Awesome, man. I'm great, man. Good to link up, man. I know you're rarely out on the East Coast these days. Well, I won't say rarely, but you spend most of your time out west, as it seems.
Yep.
But so you're living out west now, and what's it like? I guess like carrying the Durham torch like out west. I mean, what's it like carrying the North Carolina name, so far away from home?
Well, so the whole last year has been like this big growth period where a lot of people are starting to catch wind of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been, I left North Carolina 5-6 years ago. Lived in D.C. for a while, and I've been traveling full time for the last 6-7 years. So I'm sort of used to. And still visiting home often, so I'm used to traveling out, throwing the bull up wherever I go, and still being able to come home and get love and get a home cooked meal and still feel like I'm a part of this community in many ways. Yeah. So it's dope, man. The dopest about living on the West Coast. Can I cuss?
We'll edit it.
All right, the dopest part about living
there you go.
in LA is the Asian infrastructure, man. It's like there's really. It's very normalized to be Asian and to have a mohawk and
right.
So that's been cool.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. So so you said you've been like traveling full time with music for like 7 years.
Poetry though.
A lot of poetry.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
cool,
yep, yep.
cool. Well, I guess what's all that like? I mean, a lot of people, we can call it tour life. A lot of our listeners will probably never experience that, but are very curious as to what like that's like for the artist, like a day to day. Like, what's your day to day like? I mean, do you eat? Do you sleep?
Yeah.
I mean,
So the rap tour stuff is really dope, and I'm really new to it as far as having a crew. This was my first run with the Yikes tour with Dumbfounded.
Okay.
Actually being with a crew, night in, night out. And that's been really, really fun. But for the most part. I'm usually traveling by myself. It's like it's living the dream, you know what I'm saying? In many ways, and then it's also just super lonely, bro. Like
really,
you get up and you don't have anybody to talk to, and you're in a city you've never been, or a small rural town that you've never been and may never go back to, and you don't have any real conversations with anybody until you get to the show.
Right.
But personally, I'm like a really to myself kind of person as well, and
so you're an introvert.
I'm kind of both though. Like
Kinda
when I'm
both.
on, I'm on,
Yeah.
and I'm good at being on when I'm supposed to be.
Right.
But generally, man, I really love time by myself as well. I love being in my own head and my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been great.
So what do you fill that time with? Do you read? Do you listen to music?
I try to write. It's a lot of long drives, so I try to throw on beats and write and create stuff while I'm on the road. I read a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I mostly bring my HDMI cord and just hook up Netflix.
I feel you.
Just,
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, word up. So yeah, it's official as of like months and months ago, but North Cat went pretty much viral. What was it like? I guess when that was happening. Was that a whirlwind? I mean, was that what was it? Craziness?
Definitely, man. I mean, it was my first time where you check your phone and every 15 minutes there's 20,000 views that you just jumping and jumping, and your notification things is always at 99, and it's like just like rolling and rolling and rolling. So when it was happening that actual week, it was nutty, man, and it was I was glued to my phone, and it was like, what is this really happening? Kind of thing. And then it's an interesting thing because your life feels like it's moving so fast, but also so slow at the same time. Like
absolutely,
a lot of growth is happening. A lot of people are becoming aware, but I'm still just sitting there eating lunch, and I'm still just kind of in my same shoes, and But what's been cool is that seeing how it's developed in different ways over the last year and over time, and wondering how it will, what will this song mean to me and to other people in 10 years and 20 years, and will it stand that kind of test of time? So it's been amazing, yeah.
That's cool, man. And honestly, yo, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, golly, that is so amazing. Like, what could possibly follow? And then you dropped, like, the What's Good video, and I was like, Jesus, like, this could have been the first single, too. Like, it's just really good. It's a really good album, man, like, all the way through.
Thank you, man.
I mean, do people have an appreciation for the whole piece of art? Like, everywhere you go, you talk to people. Do they know, like, a lot of the B-sides and stuff like that? I mean, or do you learn them on that type of stuff?
Well, like, in this day and age, it's very single based and it's playlist based. So I'd say like 75 to 80% of people just know NORCAC.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's a strong enough centerpiece to know me by, and that'll do it for you.
Yeah.
But there is a good strong like 15 to 20% people who listen to the album straight. And the thing is, if most people get to the album, they listen to the whole thing.
Right.
And that's what's been really this has been a blessing for me. And it's to me, it's like so many people are like, do songs, playlists, and do singles and all of that.
Yeah.
But the reception I've gotten from the album just kind of reminded me of like the value of like a record and a project, and it representing a time in my life. And this being like saying, hey, this album represents me and my debut project at this time when I was this age.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome to hear. So you've mentioned poetry earlier, and I definitely had a couple questions lined up about that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You recently did something at Midwestern State University, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because a friend of mine sent me an article. And it just had some interesting stuff about that. You apparently had like a very big performance, and it was like a teaching moment, right, or something like that.
Somewhat. So like most the ways I get to a college is either through the campus activity board, who has a budget, and they bring in entertainment, whether it's comedians or poets or musicians or whatever.
Right.
And then another way also is usually through like a specific organization, such as the Asian American Student Organization, multicultural programming and things like that. So whenever I go, there's usually kind of a diversity programming aspect around it, but it's just me spitting poems and telling stories for an hour. And I'm not sure if I would consider it a teaching thing.
Right.
But it's definitely borders the line between entertainment and I guess programming,
experience learning.
Yeah, like I forget. I don't know how to exactly put it, but
I feel you. Yeah.
Programming, right? It's like
There
not
you go.
just entertainment, but it's also speaking on certain issues that may affect certain demographics of students.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah.
So basically, how does your writing process differ between your music and your poetry? I mean, is it like you were saying, the subject matter where you can use poetry to make a big statement, but I feel like you do that as well with music. So where is the line? Like, is there a line between it?
Creatively?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so I started out MCing when I was a kid, writing rhymes like most of us do. Yeah. Making music and tapes. And then when I got into high school, I fell into the world of poetry. And where the difference was for me at that time, and in the state of like immaturity that I was in at the time, was that I really felt like I could really be myself. There was no sense of me feeling pressured to have to be somebody I wasn't.
Right.
And it's not a commercialized community.
Absolutely.
In that sense. So in many ways, I had the freedom to be able to just tell whatever stories I wanted to, and there was a community that would accept me for that. And
so
because
awesome.
there's slams, there's competition. So like I can still want to be a beast. I can still want to chop, but then get off stage and be part of a wholehearted community that respects me and whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but what I started realizing was actually, as I started making a living doing poetry, going to universities, and also traveling abroad, like I realized that there's a language barrier, and there's
interesting.
There as fulfilling and as intimate as poetry is, there are a lot of barriers. Education is one of those things, right? Not a lot of people have the resources to get into poetry or be exposed to certain kinds of poetry. And then I also realized, like, rap was always my it was my for real dream. It was always my biggest dream, was to be an MC, to hold the mic in my hand, and to rock a live audience. And so that's where I started wanting to talk less, if that makes sense, and allow the music to to convey things for me emotionally as well.
Yeah.
And it's great because all of that time I spent in the poetry realm really helped shape the kind of content and the kind of sort of lyricism that I bring to the table now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was at a show. I think it was Beats and Bars last year. Yeah.
Oh, you were there?
I was there.
Dope.
I was out there front row. Had to be. It was very
Dope.
hot that day,
Yeah,
but it was awesome. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, you would spit like an acapella or something in between a couple lines. You definitely have like that showman type thing, and you insert like the poetry elements into it, even with the hip hop thing. So I definitely respect that, man, for sure.
Thank you,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
absolutely. So you mentioned that you were on the West Coast leg of the tour.
Mhm.
What was it like? I mean, that's your other home essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what's the love like out there, man? What was it? What were the shows like? The crowds,
it's
man.
dope because like I mentioned, the Asian infrastructure, like
Yeah.
the shows out there were probably 75% Asian.
Really?
Which is crazy. Like,
Interesting. That is interesting. Yeah,
and here,
yeah.
even I feel like there's a record-setting amount of Asian people in one
Yeah,
place
yeah,
here, but it's much more diverse.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just, it was beautiful. It was a lot of things because it was my first run, my first tour. I got to see.
Congrats.
And as a artist, I really thank you, man. An
Yeah.
artist I really respect and admire, and have been a fan of his work for a long time as well. So I got to see him rock out and do songs that I love every single night.
Yeah.
It just was a beautiful learning experience, man, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, this isn't an official statement. I'm not going to put this on record, but you said you like the competitiveness of the poetry and blah, blah, blah. I mean, is there a chance you would ever step in the battle rap ring? Is that
So
like
it's funny. Dumb was like, "Yo, you could battle, yo. Like you should, you should do that shit." And I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "No, you should do that shit." And so I was like, "Who do I battle?" He was like, "Battle anybody." So maybe one day, like I would step into the ring and do a 1-rounder or something. And
you got the
maybe not. I don't
punchlines,
think
man.
so.
You got the punchlines, man.
I'm like real compassionate dude. Like I
feel you.
feel myself saying something that mean about somebody. You know what I mean? Like
Sometimes it's just being really witty. You don't always have
True.
to directly attack. Like there's
That's
people like
true.
Daylight and stuff that almost never directly rap at the opponent. They
Right.
just say really clever things.
Right,
Like
right,
you had
right,
one
right.
punch, something about understand all this traveling has made me know how to deal with my baggage, like things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
If
real.
you said that in like a battle rap
That's real.
realm, like people would be like,
That's
you know what I'm
real.
saying? Like it
Well,
gets
I'm
that.
also not afraid of silence. So
Right,
like
right.
as a poet, you perform and
Right.
there's an intimate moment, with the
Uh-huh.
crowd, and so I actually really love that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, I don't know if I could, because there's also an art to being the one that's not spitting, and there's an art to like how
Defense.
you stand,
Yep.
how you deflect or appreciate the line, or how you stare them in the eyes when they all in your, like all of that.
Oh,
shit
yeah,
is,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
also some shit that I'd be like, oh.
There's an art to it.
Yeah.
There's an art to it for sure.
Maybe
Maybe
see
something
what
happen.
I-
Maybe something go down. Maybe we'll see. Yeah,
Word.
but well, listen, man. I really appreciate you taking some time out,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank
It's
you,
always
man.
a pleasure, man. Shout out from WKNC 88.1. We got mad love for you. Keep doing your thing, bro.
Yes, sir.